In this video, I will go over the list of best versus worst protein snacks that you can get from a gas station. Remembering this list will help you fast track your weight loss effortlessly. Hi, I'm Dr. Zaldivar and I lost 35 pounds and maintained it for years now despite growing up, being overweight and struggling with binge eating and emotional eating for decades. Two things that fast-tracked my weight loss and helped me to maintain it is prioritizing protein and also raising my baseline dopamine levels. I'll talk a little bit more about that towards the end. And I quit my nutrition professor jobs at the University of Miami and the American College of Sports Medicine so I could reach a wider audience online. All right, let's get into it. We're gonna start with the worst protein snacks that you can find at a gas station. Number one, protein bars. Pretty much most protein bars are probably some of the worst protein snacks that you can consume. A lot of them are high in carbohydrates and sugars and actual sweeteners, not even the fake sweeteners. And so those are the ones that are going to slow down your weight loss the most. I remember when my hubby was competing in a lot of bodybuilding shows, he would have a lot of those Meat RX bars. And then one day we realized that he's having the equivalent of 3 slices of bread per bar, and sometimes he would have 2 or 3 bars instead of lunch. And so the moment we caught that, he obviously stopped all of those protein bars and he was winning the bodybuilding shows pretty easily. Also, a lot of these protein bars are high in seed oil, so those are the most inflammatory things you can put in your body. So if you are going to consume a protein bar, at least look at the nutrition label. Make sure that the ingredient label is as short as humanly possible. The more ingredients that tend to be on a package, the worse off the food tends to be. And even if you go with the protein bars that are using supposedly healthier sweeteners like stevia or allulose or monk fruit extract, even those are going to mess up your gut health. These studies are piling on. Pretty much all of those sweeteners are leading to shifts in our microbiome, which is going to affect your gut health. And we know that gut health is the root of pretty much every other system in your body. So if your gut health is poor, you're probably gonna have acne or psoriasis or eczema or dandruff, or your skin and hair aren't gonna be as healthy, or you're gonna have a very terrible time being able to lose weight, or you're gonna have brain fog and low energy. I mean, the list goes on. And so you really want to protect your gut health with everything that you have, and understanding that anything that comes out of a package usually is going to lead to a detrimental effect on your gut health. This is why I would just urge you to focus on more whole foods protein snacks, which I'm going to go over in a second. Second worst protein snack from a gas station would be protein shakes. First off, it's a really bad idea to drink your calories if you're trying to lose weight, because the act of chewing actually helps you feel fuller. It affects the type of hormones that you're secreting. It affects your satiety hormones and your hunger hormones. And then again, we come to the problem with the fake preservatives and the fake sweeteners. All of those things are going to affect your health negatively, and most importantly, they're going to lead to poor gut health, which eventually leads to this condition called leaky gut or intestinal permeability. I have an older YouTube video where I describe the physiology of leaky gut. I will make sure that I link it at the end of this YouTube video so you can check it out, so you can understand how your gut health really is the root of all of your health symptoms. Another common thing I find with people who drink protein shakes, those shakes tend to be high in dairy, and a lot of people, especially if they have poor gut health, they tend to have some sensitivity to dairy. And so if you're consuming massive amounts of dairy protein in those protein shakes, you're probably suffering with additional health symptoms that you may not have contributed to the fact that you're consuming a lot of dairy. Dairy is actually one of the top 7 most common food sensitivities, along with eggs and gluten and corn and soy and nuts and shellfish. Third worst protein snack from a gas station would be the fruit flavored yogurts. Not all yogurt is bad, but if you're gonna get the ones that are flavored, they usually are pretty high in sugars. You do have the sugar that is natural in yogurt, the lactose. Some people might not tolerate it, but if you don't have an issue with that, that's fine. But then what they do is they add massive amounts of actual sugar to make it taste really good. And so of course that's going to not help you burn the body fat, because you're gonna be releasing insulin, which is your fat burning hormone, and that's going to really slow things down for you. Fourth worst protein snack from a gas station are nuts. Pretty much all nuts that you're gonna grab from a gas station will be roasted in seed oils like cottonseed oil and or peanut oil. Those are the most inflammatory types of fats that you can put in your body. I have clients where their blood sugar shoots higher when they're consuming seed oils as compared to when they eat actual carbohydrates. That's how powerful they are in affecting our health negatively. Another thing about nuts is that they're pretty delicious, especially if they're roasted and they are salted. Anything that is very tasty, if you're trying to lose weight, is going to make your life miserable, because every time you're consuming yummy foods on a diet, you're going to create cravings as a response of consuming that food. And so it's gonna drag your baseline dopamine level. Highly palatable or very yummy foods are not really natural foods. We never ate those kinds of foods that are roasted and salted and cooked in ways that would increase the hedonic value or how good they taste. And so our brains are not used to that kind of stimulation. So our brains will release tons of dopamine all at once. That is unnatural. And so our brains also, as a response to that unnatural release of dopamine, our brains freak out and they try to protect us from never-ending stimulation. And so the brain starts to destroy its dopamine receptor. And so now, even if you're eating all the nuts and you're releasing all the dopamine, you no longer have dopamine receptors known as the D2 receptors for the dopamine to bind to. It's dopamine and D2 receptors are like a lock and key situation. They have to bind together for you to feel the effects of dopamine. And so if your brain, because it's trying to protect you from never-ending stimulation, if your brain starts to downregulate and destroy the amount of D2 receptors that it naturally has, now you will naturally feel miserable as your baseline, because the number of D2 receptors in your brain sets the benchmark for what your baseline dopamine level is, what you naturally feel like. Your baseline mood, your baseline energy levels, your baseline happiness levels, all those things are controlled by your baseline amount of D2 receptors. And so the more you eat addictive foods or very yummy foods like roasted and salted nuts, the less D2 receptors you have, the lower your baseline dopamine level is. The lower your baseline dopamine level is, the harder it's going to be for you to achieve anything, let alone lose weight. You're just not gonna have the motivation, you're not gonna have the mental clarity, you're not even gonna have the energy to do the work that is required. This was actually the main way that I managed to lose the weight finally after decades of struggle and be able to maintain it for years now. I even studied how to raise baseline dopamine levels for 7 years at the University of Miami as part of my dissertation for my doctorate degree. And so I put together everything that I've learned and my protocols that I have perfected for weight loss specifically in the fitness bundle. It includes 3 guides, and those guides together teach you the physical way to raise your baseline dopamine and restore D2 receptors. And they also teach you the mental way, the mental techniques that you can use to also raise your D2 receptors and baseline dopamine levels. And you can find the fitness bundle on my website at drzaldivar.com/shop. All right, the 5th worst high protein snack that you can get from a gas station would be maple bacon. There was a time when I was hooked on maple bacon. The day that I discovered it was a really beautiful day. I fell in love with this high protein snack and I thought that I was doing good for my body and for my fitness, until I realized that the reason it tasted so good is because it was bathed in sugar. And so the more sugar you're eating, the more insulin you're producing. Insulin is the fat storage hormone. You're just gonna have a really, really hard time losing weight that way. All right, let's move on to the good news. What are the best high protein snacks from a gas station? You will see that they're generally whole foods, unprocessed and unpackaged foods. So number 1 would be eggs, boiled eggs. Any gas station is going to have that. And this is a 0-carb food that's high in protein, that has no additional ingredients that are going to mess up your gut health. Second best high protein gas station snack you can get would be plain yogurt. Try to get something like Chobani or just any kind of unflavored, unsweetened plain yogurt that's going to be very high in protein. And if you get a Greek yogurt specifically, it's going to have twice the amount of protein as regular yogurt, and it's going to have probiotics which are going to help support a healthy microbiome, and it's going to improve your gut health. Number 3, meat sticks, especially the ones that are single ingredient. Number 4, jerky. Now you want to be careful with jerky brands because some of them have added sugars and some of them have way more added sugars than necessary. So experiment with different brands and see the one that you like, the one that would have the least amount of sugar, and ideally without the sugar, that would be the best option. And then you've got the processed meats like deli meats, hot dogs without the bun, and sausages. Sure, processed meats are not the best for your gut health, but I would venture that they're far better than those processed, packaged, protein bars that you may otherwise have reached for. And despite the preservatives and the stuff that they add to process the meat, at least there's still 0 carbs, which means it's much easier to lose weight when you're consuming them as compared to a protein bar that will have artificial sweeteners. And those artificial sweeteners are going to trick the body to release insulin anyway. And so you're still releasing that fat storage hormone, which is making weight loss very, very difficult. Having said all that, I personally will only have a carnivore bar. I never leave the house without at least 3 carnivore bars in my purse. They're the equivalent of a ribeye steak. So if worst comes to worst, I always know I have a full meal in my backpack or in my purse, and you can check them out on carnivorebar.com, and you can use my code Dr. Sarah to get 10% off. Every bar is around 400 calories, but it's the cleanest ingredients. It's just beef and tallow and salt. Some of them are unsalted. Some of them have added honey to them. So if your palate is used to having a little bit more sugar, you might enjoy the ones that have the honey in them a little bit more. I try to stay away from anything that's too stimulating for my brain, given my dieting history. And so for me, the salted carnivore bars are the best option. So what are your thoughts? Did I miss anything? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know in the comment section below. And if you're looking for faster results and accountability and really close support, then check out my coaching packages at drzaldivar.com/coaching. The ones I usually recommend the most to my potential clients would be the bundle and or the premium packages, because they come with unlimited email support, which is so critical for the accountability and for maximum support. And especially initially, when you're changing a lot of habits and a lot of things in your life, you need very quick adaptability and you need adjustments on the fly. And so when I would hire coaches, I would always try to find somebody who would offer that level of communication, and it was tough to find that. And so when I started coaching, it was really important to me to include the unlimited email support as a really important element of the coaching relationship. Now, if you enjoyed all this protein talk, I will send you a free copy of my guide, the 30-day carnivore diet challenge guide, when you sign up to my newsletter at drzaldivar.com/newsletter. If you found this information helpful, make sure you share it with a friend or family member that may benefit from this list. And also make sure you give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit that little notification bell icon so YouTube alerts you every time I post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.